lecture or the discussion. That is we are focusing for device physics for engineering. That is the title I am keeping this. So here we will bring in the role of materials, where the materials and its properties play in the device physics for engineering. That is what we are bringing in that part. In the first unit base of the EL12, that is the focus. So we are just gradually bring, because actually I'll be going a bit slow on this. So some of you who are already familiar with those things may become bit impatient, I know, but then I am trying a different approach. So that to bring in some novelty. So that is the only thing. So I'm just trying to bring in the role of materials in a different way. So now we have seen that as electronics engineers, we were supposed to make systems. And then we have seen that systems consist of various boards with the PCB, or and then this could be on a chip, and then within the chip we have various blocks, and these various blocks are made using logic gates, or which, well, I mean, typically when you're talking of a digital system, vast majority of electronics is dominated by digital systems. So we can talk of blocks are made of logic gates, and logic gates in turn are made of transistors, and transistor is the real estate is made on a silicon substrate or a material substrate. So this is where the material comes in. That is where, when you're talking of the devices, so you can see that it is lowest hierarchy. But that is the essential thing. That is what real thing which is happening when you are implementing it using device. So when you are talking of device, how a device is made, what are the kind of materials to be used, all those things. One important thing we need to understand is the difference between a chipset, that is system on a board, and a system on a chip. Today, when we talk of, because of the miniaturization, because we are seeing in this context device physics in the context of microelectronics we are dealing with. So miniaturization has happened, and so earlier we were talking of chipsets and things like that. That is, total system is made on a board. So that means various components are there. They are soldered together in a on a PCB, printed circuit board, and things. That is the left side of this slide. You are seeing that system on board. So if you open up your any desktop computers or old desktop computers, you will see that chipsets, because various Intel chipsets are there. One of them. There are other chipsets also. So that means a set of chips assembled on a PCB or soldered on a PCB. Whereas today you have system on chip, on a single chip, all those parts. So the right hand side, what you're seeing is on a single chip. So, and if you look into deeply, you will see that more or less same functional blocks are there, but they are integrated on the same substrate. This picture may not be making it very clear, but you can see that all the pin connections are there. There is no soldered joints or anything. So this just to these blocks on the top is just to show that these functionalities are available as various blocks in the this chip actually. So the whole thing, which what you are seeing on the left side, is integrated into a single chip, and even much more efficiently. So you have that. That is today when we talk of microelectronics, it is system on chip. If you open up a tablet, or if you open up a digital camera, or if you open up a cell phone, you will see only one or at the mostly you will see only a single chip where all the functionalities are incorporated. So today we are talking of a system on chip actually. So that also should be kept in mind when you are talking about the materials, or when you're talking about the system. So now how to go about it? So the left hand side, you're seeing, you're taking a piece of rock and then chiseling it out, and you're making a beautiful sculpture out of it. Or one way of seeing it is that, so you can remove unnecessary parts, or you can use blocks to make construct whatever thing you want. So the basic building block, so this could be that this is a transistor. This transistor could be a block, and using these blocks you can build this. Other way of seeing is you take a uh, wafer of silicon, and then you can pattern the whole uh, circuits or the systems onto this substrate. So that is, so you're basically playing with the blocks, or you can talk of playing with uh, like with a rock, and chiseling it out and making a beautiful sculpture out of it. So there are two ways of seeing it actually. So the simile will become very clear to you when you go through the IC processing and things like that. So that we may not be getting into those details. So now as far as this patterning, see, patterning you are more familiar, so I use the word patterning of the whole thing. Actually, patterns are transferred to a silicon or some material. So the first question comes to our mind is, can we do it with any material? So any material randomly you select and do that. Sculpturing is not done with any material. So similarly, in this case also, we have to see that what are the, so what are, how you select the material. The material selection becomes very important. And so that means what are the properties to look into, what are the properties of the material you have to look into to select a particular material. So here we need to understand, we are talking of the electronic systems. So that means we are looking at creating electrical functionalities. That means using the application of voltage and current, we are getting various functionalities. So we are playing with electrical and
Sir, you are not.
yeah. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. So your voice was cracking.
Okay, some network issue might be. So okay now.
Yes, sir. Not better.
Hello.
Now clear, sir.
Yep. So this slides are visible.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, visible.
Slides are
Yes,
readable,
sir.
no? Like from the, so whatever I'm speaking is from the slide. So if you are missing something from my audio, that is taken care of by the slide actually. So is it okay now? I might have making some moment. Anyway, any issue is there if because my net was a bit slow today. So if any issues you have, I just point out in between. So I may not know in between.
Okay.
So we need to look into the electrical characteristics. So that means the what kind of current voltage characteristic when you apply an electric field, what kind of what is the nature of flow, what is the relationship between, that is the meaning of electrical characteristics. So that is what primary focus on in this course or in this paper will be on the current voltage relationship.
Sir,
That is the
Farah is
meaning of,
waiting
yeah.
outside.
Okay, oh, I have to close this and then only. Okay, let me just, okay, I cannot even see because once the sharing starts, I'll just have to, and that is not a very easy job actually. Anyway, so I think again I have to follow that what I do in the real class. No, if somebody is late, they are not allowed. So that our flow is not disturbed. So yeah, so again going back. it is visible slides.
Yes, sir. Visible.
Yeah. So now we need to, when we are talking of the material characteristics, electrical, say for example, electrical, we always need to talk of, see here, one thing we need to understand, engineering is all about quantification. We don't talk of anything vaguely. So we need something which can be used as a figure of merit. Figure of merit means a numerical expression taken as representing the performance or efficiency of a given device, material, or procedure. You'll see at various levels. Right now, we are talking at the material level. Then later on, we will be looking at some factor which can be used as a figure of merit at the device level, or then we go into the circuit level also. We will. So this is figure of merit is a numerical expression to show it can be used as a representative for performance, or it can be used for comparison. So here again, as I said, it is we are looking at some property of the material which can be used as a figure of the merit of that material. So what is the parameter of the material which you can use? Any answer? What is the parameter of the material you can use for which can be used as a figure of merit? And because basically we have various materials, so you want to use one parameter for comparing. See, for example, in a class, students very often a performance is compared by their marks, then some various other factors one can use. So how fast somebody, yeah.
Conductivity.
Yeah. So we can use electrical conductivity. When we are talking about it is the electrical conductivity, because there are thermal conductivities also. But as I mentioned earlier, we are worried about only of the electrical part. So we can use electrical conductivity as a parameter which can be used as a figure of merit. So this is one point I wanted to tell you. This highlights the importance of measurement. It's all about quantification. Engineering is all about quantification. So there is a famous statement by Lord Kelvin. Actually, a long time back, I was teaching this electronic measurement in this undergraduate course in University College. That time I was stuck with this statement of Kelvin. So because the importance of measurement. So till from that time onwards, always I remember it. So this is, so when we can measure it, what you are speaking about. See, for example, we talk of voltages, we talk of currents, etc. If we then it will be very vague if we cannot measure it and express it in numbers. See, for example, we know that in typical supply you have 220 volts. So the current could be changed. We can go up to 5 amperes. So we talk in terms of actual values. So measurement is very important. Our quantification is very important in engineering, because then that vagueness will go. Say, for example, otherwise you will use words like big, small, tall, short, long. And the important limitation of this, they are relative. I hope that all of you remember the story of that Birbal. Anybody can share with us the story of that Birbal? Hello?
So which one, sorry?
No, in this context. So it is between short and long. There was a story related to Birbal in between short and long. Anybody remember that story?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Girls, anybody would like to tell the story?
No, sir. I don't know.
Actually, once, as usual, Akbar gave a problem. So there was a long rod or a stick. Then asked the people in to make it short without breaking it. So Birbal did. So how can you make it short without
By
breaking it?
taking
He
a
brought
long.
another
Long.
Type of, yes.
Yeah, he brought another longer one. So that is all. So that is what is the meaning of relative. So short and long, these are the issues with these kind of words when we use. If you say there is a large voltage, then there is a small voltage. If you measure them, then the comparison becomes very easy. Otherwise, it is very relative actually. For somebody, something is very long. Somebody, it might be very short. Or you can bring something long and make it short and all those things. So that vagueness can be removed by bringing in the quantification or through experimentation. If you know the length of the road, then you can know that okay, this is this much long. We define like that. So vagueness has to be removed. Yeah. So now that brings us, as Prashant was telling, one of the important parameter of the material is the resistivity, or I would like to use the word conductivity. Why? Why not resistivity? Why conductivity? Yeah.
Because we want to conduct any like material.
See, actually, resistivity and conductivity are reciprocal thing. Resistivity is something you are resisting, no. So it is something of a negative terminology. That this is my personal opinion only. Don't take it too seriously because very often this resistivity and conductivity are interchangeably used. And normally in the measurement you get resistivity actually. Then you take the reciprocal and find out the conductivity and things like that. Most of the measurements give you resistivity. You might have done that experiment. So any idea of its value? Like for example, I'm given. Can you find out what is the? There are three sets of material I have given. One on the top is aluminum, copper. Then you have silicon, germanium. Then I have silicon dioxide. So why I have selected these three class of material? One is aluminum and copper. Second, I am giving.
First one is first one is metal.
Yeah.
Second one is semiconductor. Then third one is insulator.
Yeah. So you can see that if you talk in terms of conductivity, these first categories have large value of conductivity or a very low value of resistivity. There is a table I will show you in the next slide, the order of their conductivities or resistivities. Whereas last one, the silicon dioxide, has very high resistivity or very low conductivity, and silicon germanium has very somewhere in between them. So let us see the next slide. Yeah, is it so? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
This table is visible.
Yes, sir. Visible.
So you can see that since it is resistivity is given in ohm meters, so you can see that say for example, the material of our interest copper has 1.72 into 10 raised to minus 8 ohm meter. Then aluminum has something around 2.82 into 10 raised to minus 8. Whereas you go to silicon, it is 640. Its resistivity is 640, quite high as compared to aluminum and copper. Then germanium has 0.46. You can see that. And one thing, see, this is here I would like to ask you, what is the order of resistivity of the, see, we might have done this wafer cleaning and all those experiments in the lab. You have seen, or the kind of wafers we use. What is the resistivity of silicon which you use? Yeah. Any idea?
No, sir.
Yeah, we'll come to that later. So it is typically around 1 ohm centimeter. You can always convert it into meters. So it's much lower than this 640. So we'll come to that later, how it is done. So I'm not jumping the gun right now. So you can see, but important thing you can see is you have a class of materials where the conductivity is quite high. They come under the mostly metals. Then you have a class of materials who have the high, very high resistivity. They are called as insulators, and in between you have the semiconductors. That is one thing we need to. So this is could be a good criteria for selecting the material for different electrical applications. So that is what we do for where we want to have current transmission without much loss. So we use metals. Actually, we use for transmission purpose. We use electrical transmission from one place to another is done through metals, whether it is in electronic circuits or whether it is in the supply, electrical supply. We use metals. Whereas if we want to protect ourselves, that is why the name itself. Now, by the way, what is the meaning of the word metal? Why? What do you understand by a metal? Semiconductor, one can understand it is semi. The conduction process is semi. So, what is the meaning of metal? What is the origin? Why is these materials are known as metals? Any idea, Prashant?
So high melting point, I think.
Prashant?
No, not sir. Metal at all.
Meenakshi is there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, why these are known as metals? The silver, copper, gold, aluminum, tungsten, etc. They are known as metals. Why the name metals?
Sir, freshly or maybe it is.
Yeah, you are near to that. Actually, it is through mining. These materials are obtained through mining, actually. So that is it's mostly these words are originated from Greek, actually. So these materials were obtained through mining ore. So they have their ores, and then you are refining them and getting the pure metal. So that is the meaning of the metals. And semiconductors, of course, you understood the conduction process is somewhere in between. So you have the, and what is the insulators? Why the name insulators?
So they are used to insulate.
Yeah, that is very straightforward. We are using it for electrical insulation between the, and for our protection also, and between two conducting lines also. So you can insulate them, isolate them, or insulate them from the electrical interference. So then that is how. So that is why the names used. So then you can see that. So the insulators have very high resistivity, and the metals have very low resistivity. So all of these materials find applications in various ways. Yeah. So again, so what we have seen. Now, have you what else have you have noticed? Okay, you have noticed this. All of you have noticed this. Anything else you have noticed? Alka, have you seen the table and have you noticed anything in the table? If you want, I can go back to that table. Have you noticed anything? See, of course, you have seen this difference in their conductivities. Anything else? Anybody? First, I will let me start with Alka. Are
सर
you? Yeah.
लास्ट स्लाइड फिर से ओपन कर दीजिए वो.
Yeah. So this is a table. So what are the things? What are the interesting things here? One is the difference in the conductivities. Anything else? Let me see. Who will find it out? Okay, I'm starting with Alka. So you are given somebody should monitor the time. We should not waste too much time on that. So she should
डिफरेंस इन जर्मेनियम एंड सिलिकॉन.
No, see this slide. One thing is you see the difference in the conductivities. Anything else you see? Yeah, next one. Who is next? Anybody?
Sir, reciprocity and conductivity.
Yeah, that is there. That already I mentioned, which I have not mentioned so far.
Sir, metal and alloys.
Dif-
Yes.
alloys.
Yes. No, the alloy is there. Okay, fine. I have not mentioned about the alloy. Yeah, that is there. That is not of our interest. Yeah, that is there. Alloys I have not mentioned. It is
Temperature 293
yeah,
Kelvin.
yeah. See, we have well-defined temperature. 293 Kelvin. Who said that?
Sir, Alka.
Yeah, good. So you see, we have defined the temperature. What does it mean? Why I have defined the temperature? What is this 293? Anybody has any idea what is this 293 Kelvin? What is the significance of 293? Prashant?
So standard.
Room temperature.
So 0 Celsius.
293 is it's
Room temperature.
this yeah, it is actually 273 plus 0 plus 293. It is above room temperature anyway. So I mean above 0 degrees Celsius. It is because
Room
yeah,
temperature is
it is room
300.
temperature. It is 20 degree. They are considering around 20. Normally it is 2 plus 0 plus 273 plus 20. So it is 293. So around 20 degree. So room temperature varies between 20 to 30 degrees. So it is. So these measurements are around room temperature. Let us say it is around 20 degrees Celsius. We can say that it is the room temperature. What does it mean actually? Any other information? Okay, this okay, let us assume that this is done at the room temperature. 20 degrees Celsius is treated to be room temperature. Then all these measurements are or data is for room temperature. Does it mean anything else? Like it implies something more?
That means due to change of temperature, these values will change.
Yeah, actually, we have to define so whenever we talk of conductivity or resistivity, we need to define the temperature. If the temperature changes, and in fact, we can see that actually there is a lot of data available which shows that at different temperature, the conductivity or resistivity of the material changes. So they will not be constant. It is a strong function of temperature. So that's a very important observation. That, the electrical conductivity of these materials changes with temperature. So that is why we need to define the temperature. And normally we define it for room temperature. That's all. But because the measurement might be done in room temperature, but at other temperatures also one can make the measurement. Yeah. Let us go back. So this is one important observation. So you have seen the temperature sensitivity. That brings us to this important question. This I think I have skipped one slide was there. Yeah, this. So you can see that if you this is, I mean, of course, from the data it is because that data is only for one temperature, but here conductor is about the conductor. I mean that means metals and normal conductors and semiconductors. One important difference you can see that at around room temperature, there is in the metals you have the resistivity increases linearly with temperature, and even at low temperature, that is between 0 to 20 Kelvin also, there of course it is not linear. It has some applications also, that metal the temperature varies linearly, with the resistivities vary linearly with temperature. Has it got any application? Our engineer Prashant has any answer for that? Yeah. First graph, that figure A, has it got any use?
So it is used as a temperature sensor.
Yeah, actually it is one of the high, especially for high temperatures, because normally mercury thermometers are used up to 100 degrees Celsius or so 100 200 degrees only. But high temperatures, for example, you have a oven or something where the temperatures goes into 500 thousands. There, metal resistant thermometers. One of the old popularly used one is a platinum resistant thermometers. So a linear relationship between temperature and resistivity will be quite useful. Finding out the temperature, actually it has an application. Now, forget about that. So that is not very important for us. But then the information should be there. So that is why I just mentioned it's it is used. Whereas you come to the figure C, you see that the resistivity of the semiconductor decreases with temperature. So it is decreasing. So in fact, sort of exponentially decreasing. It's very sharp. It's not linear or something. It is very sharp. If you, in fact, if you look into the measurement, you will see that an exponential decrease one can see with the temperature. So this is one thing we see. Now the question is, why these materials? I mean, I've not mentioned anything about the insulators because they are not that sensitive, even though a slight, just like semiconductors, they also have a slight decrease in resistivity is observed with the change in temperature, but that is not very drastic. So that is why I have not brought in that. So it's not very significant. And then one thing we need to keep it in mind is this: when we are talking about this, the stability of the material is very important. So it should remain as a solid. So this is valid only so long as the material remain solid. So so that means what will be the upper limit of the temperature, Bhaskar?
Up to its melting point.
Yeah, it will be the melting point. So it is, if the temperature is within the melting point, then more or less this behavior is seen. So temperature cannot go because the material has to remain in the. So I mean, in fact, all these three materials are crystalline materials. So where this is normally seen. Now, so we talk of let us see the temperature sensitivity, and let us talk of what is the origin of conductivity, because we have seen that conductivity, we are trying to use conductivity. Later on it will be clear, but right now we are using conductivity as a figure of merit. We talked of a figure of merit in the beginning, and so let us use conductivity can be used to distinguish between these three materials, and so we are using it as a figure of merit actually between metal, semiconductors and insulators. And then the nature of conductivity with variation of it with the temperature also. So now, now let us find out how the material is getting a conductivity. So one thing we should remember throughout our discussions hereafter, we will be very often using these parameters. That is, we will be talking in terms of current density instead of current, electric field instead of potential or the voltage, and resistivity. We don't because you all of you understand the relationship between resistance and resistivity, but we are looking at the resistivity that is for a particular material. So we are not talking about the resistance actually. So these will be the terms we will be using: current, current density, electric field, and resistivity. So now let us see first the current density, because our idea is to come to conductivity. We need to look into what are the parameters on which the conductivity depends on. So for that, first we try to find out the current density, and then we get into conductivity. So what are the factors on which current density depends on? Who would like to pick? Because I can't see your name, so I'm not picking up any name. So one of you can answer that. What are the factors on which current density depends on?
So area.
Sorry.
Area.
No, of the given material. Current density. How will you define the current density? Current per unit. See, current density is current per unit area, actually.
Sir, electric field.
Sir, electric field.
And
Current density depends on electric field. So, I mean,
number of carriers.
yeah, actually, we need to understand what is current. Let us look at it in a very fundamental way. What is current? Current is flow of charges. Current density, of course, the carrier concentration. So it depends on the number of carriers or the concentration of the carriers. So that Prashant rightly said it is a concentration. And then any other parameters it will depend on?
Charge carriers, concentration.
Charge carriers, that is a charge carriers, that is a concentration. So of course, flow of charges only will produce current. So when you are talking about a concentration, it should be the charge carriers actually. So the concentration, yeah. Anything else?
Mobility.
We won't talk of mobility. We will be talking the speed with which they are moving. See, the current is decided by how the number of carriers and the speed with which they are moving. That means the velocity. Because in physics, we don't talk of speed, we talk of velocity. What is the difference between speed and velocity? Why not speed?
Scalar will be vector.
Yeah, speed is a scalar quantity and velocity is a vector quantity because the direction comes into play, and directions very often is very important actually, because we will see that current also, the particular direction of the current or current density is also very important. So we will be using the term velocity. So current density will be dependent on the carrier concentration, that is the concentration of carriers per unit volume, and then the second thing is the velocity. Yeah, so with that we can. So because current is the rate of flow of charge, so first parameter is the concentration of charge flowing. So I'm putting N into Q because Q is the electronic charge and N is the number. So N into Q is the concentration of charges flowing, because current is basically flow of charges. That is, so we will be, so throughout again, for electronic charge, we will be using Q instead of E, because very often exponentials will come. So we don't want any mix up between E exponential term and the electronic charge. So we will be using Q throughout our discussion. So NQ is the concentration of charges which are flowing, and then their velocity. So that we call it as V. Actually, we will later on we will change that. Right now I am just putting V only. So current density is NQV. So now we know that as Prashant was telling, there is one more thing. Current density is directly proportional to electric field. Isn't it? This is what you were telling, no? When you will increase the electric field, your current density increases.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is it? Why it is so? Why that from there that relation is coming? Any idea? Yes, it is a famous law.
Coulomb's law.
And which is it?
Means the
Current density is directly proportional to electric field. What is that law is known as commonly? That what is the name of that law?
Maxwell equation.
No.
A equal to sigma A.
Anybody? Girls? Current density is directly proportional to the electric field.
Sir, Ohm's law.
Yeah, very good. At least I am happy that somebody, because this is high school physics, at least somebody remembered that. It is Ohm's law actually, because the current density, because we are here talking in terms of the electric field and current density, that is all. There we talk of current and the voltage, that is all. So, but that is this Ohm's law actually. So, J is directly proportional to electric field. So I'm the constant. Actually, I could not write down that sigma. So I just put it as a constant, and I wrote the whole thing. the sigma. I did not want to struggle with finding out sigma, and so I just write it as the full name. So that constant, I call it as sigma. So that sigma is J by E. So if you look at, again, physics, it's very important. If you look at the dimensions of conductivity, J by E, if you see the current by electric field, if you look into the, then we will see that it will have the dimensions of conductivity. So now what you do is you have J is equal to, from earlier we have J is equal to NQV. So if you divide NQB by electric field, then we get V by E, which he like our this Bhaskar was telling. V by E is what is V by E? That is mobility, velocity per unit field. This is known as the mobility. So the conductivity can be expressed as in a measure. These are all measurable. Carrier concentration is measurable. Then mobility is measurable. So the conductivity can be expressed as a product of these two. So that means the conductivity depends on the carrier concentration and the mobility. Yeah. So this again we have mentioned. So again, another way of saying insulators have no significant change in resistivity with temperature. In fact, but they are similar to semiconductors, but the change is not very significant. That you should keep it in mind. Insulators and semiconductors are similar as far as the temperature properties are concerned, but the change won't be very high. Whereas metals have a positive coefficient of resistance. Resistivity increases with temperature. And semiconductor, that is the definition which I very often use for semiconductors. Semiconductors have negative temperature coefficient of resistance. So that means resistivity decreases with the temperature. Yeah. Now another question is, why now we are going back to our question, why the temperature dependence? So that means we have seen there are two parameters which decides the conductivity. That is, one is the concentration, other is the mobility. So the temperature sensitivity will be decided by what are the changes happening to this concentration and to mobility. So that will decide the temperature characteristics. So we need to look into that. So the mobility. See, again, one important thing we need to understand here is when you are talking of these materials, whether it is a metal or a semiconductor or insulator, the carriers are not moving in vacuum. They are moving within a medium. There are other forces acting, which very often call them as scattering. So we won't talk of a simple V, velocity. We will be talking of a drift of carriers, and they are never moving in straight line. They will scatter, so they are random, and there will be a net displacement from one point to another because of the electric field. So that is, so very often the carrier motion in these materials are known as drift, and the velocity is very often known as the drift velocity. We'll come to that later once we find out this temperature dependence and all those things. We will come back, revisit this drift process actually. But this, we should keep it in mind that the carriers are not moving in straight line as if they are moving in a vacuum, because they are not moving in a vacuum. They are in a medium. So they will be getting scattered. There will be internal forces acting on them. So very often we have to talk of a drift velocity rather than simple velocity. So that is why we will see in most of the textbooks, we will see Vd instead of V, the velocity. That is the drift velocity. So the change in resistivity with temperature is decided by how above two factors change with the temperature. Understandable, because there are two factors, and if any of them change with the temperature, that naturally the conductivity also will change with the temperature. Yeah. So that is, so I'm just stopping here. We will pick up some few questions, and then we will close the today's session. So Let us pick up some questions. So one by one, you should be. You should. I mean, again, I don't have the visibility of people, so one of you should answer, and as far as possible, everybody should get a chance. So there might be around 10 questions. So these are very basic, general questions which you are supposed to be familiar. So first question is, I think the questions are visible to you. First question: which is the group?
It's a fourth.
Fourth group, sir.
So if one of you have answered, they should keep quiet. They should give the opportunity to others. So both Prashant and who was the other person who answered? Fourth group. Who said was the other person?
Bhaskar.
And who was the other person?
Alka.
Alka. So now you should keep quiet unless I don't take your name.
Sapphire.
Yeah. What is the group leader of that group?
Sir, silicon.
No.
Sir, carbon.
Carbon is on that, but carbon is the group leader actually. Now the next, how many valence electrons are there in this group of elements?
4.
So actually, because that is a very important observation, the group represents the valence electrons. So for the group means you will have 4 electrons in the valence means the outermost shell. So you have 4 electrons in the outermost shell. All this, whether it is carbon, silicon, or germanium. What is the kind of chemical bonding is exhibited by these elements in this group?
Covalent.
Covalent.
What is the covalent bond means? What is the
Sharing
meaning?
of electrons.
Sharing.
It's a shared bond that is very often known as the covalent bond. That is also very important. The whole organic chemistry depends on that. And here also we'll see that this is a very important feature. Actually, the covalent bonding is a very important feature. Now, we have seen the normal resistivity. What is the order of resistivity we have seen? You remember? Any of you remember what was the resistivity of silicon?
Somewhere near 600.
I think.
That's
640.
600 ohms meter actually.
So 640.
And yeah, and the chip which you use for in your lab, you know what is the resistivity? This important figure. It is 1 ohm centimeter. 1 ohm centimeter. You see the difference. So you will come to revisit it later on. How this much changes is possible. The normal silicon has many of you might be knowing it, but we will not discuss it. But you should remember this when we are using it for making devices, that resistivity is reduced to the level of 1 ohm centimeter. That is a very important feature. Now, next question. Which has higher resistivity? Germanium or silicon?
Germanium.
Why? Why the germanium has higher resistivity?
Germanium has higher resistivity.
Why? Why do you say that germanium? Why do you? Yeah. Why germanium has higher resistivity? Yes. What is the answer? Hello. Why germanium should have higher resistivity?
Sir, silicon has higher resistivity.
Silicon has higher resistivity. Why silicon should have higher resistivity?
So because the germanium atom is bigger than the silicon atom, so the valence electron lies on the outermost shell, and they are easy to.
Yeah, actually, this is dependent. See, actually, that is where the group periodic table helps you. So you see that. So that is why the carbon is at the top. So there, it is atomic dimensions are very small as compared to when you go down in a periodic table. When you go down, the atomic size increases naturally. They change from insulator to conducting because the outermost shells will be loosely bound. So naturally, the conductivity will be increasing. Already I've shown you the table. If you have watched carefully, you could have seen the difference in resistivity of germanium and silicon. So, and if you look into the carrier concentrations, you will see that at room temperature, the free carrier concentration in germanium is much higher, and because the resistivity depends on two factors. One is the carrier concentration and at any temperature, and the mobility. Both are higher in the case of germanium, but that we have not seen. But as per the periodic table, if the once we go down in the periodic table, the resistivity decreases. So silicon is will be having a higher resistivity as compared to again, there are various ways of seeing it, based on the carrier concentration, based on the mobility, based on the band gap. Later on we will be bringing in that also. In the next lecture we will be bringing that. So there you will see that the band gap, germanium has a smaller band gap. Smaller the band gap, the you expect a higher resistivity and things like that. So this is that is the reason. So what is the chemical name of silica? What is silica basically? Yeah.
Sir, ore of silicon.
Ore of silicon? What is the ore of silicon?
Silica in soil.
Eh?
Soil.
Silicon?
Sir, mitti, sir, mitti.
I can't hear you.
Sir, soil, soil.
Sand. So I said that is a normal name for silica, but what is the chemical name? What is sand consist of? What is the chemical?
SiO2.
SiO2. So have you heard of any crystalline form of silicon dioxide? Silica is amorphous. Any crystalline form of silicon dioxide? Very often we have this silicon dioxide. Yeah, quartz is because one of the most popularly used material, that is quartz. That is also naturally available. You can get quartz also like silica. Quartz are also available. So quartz crystals. So we call it as they are crystalline. So silicon dioxide has a crystalline form also. So again, I'm stopping it here today because again with keeping some anticipation, because we are yet to answer why the conductivity of this metal and semiconductors are different. The nature, the temperature variations are different. So we will try to answer that probably in the next. So here in this lecture, we are focusing on some of these materials and difference in the properties of the material. So now we can pick some question from, because I have put some questions. Now it is your turn. Yeah.
Sir, glass is also a form of SiO2.
Glass?
Glass.
No, glass, you need to understand. Glass has silicon dioxide in it, but it is not simple silicon dioxide. It is silicate glass. Whether you have borosilicate, see, it's a mixture. It's a solution actually. Glass is nothing but a super cooled liquid actually. Glass. So normally, that is very important for you to understand. Glass is also a different state. Like you talk of crystalline and amorphous. Glass is
Glass
state.
is
Glass, I mean, they are amorphous, but it is a super cooled solution, basically.
yes,
The
sir.
other way of seeing, and it is a mixture of silicon dioxide will be there. There will be other, so a mixture basically. It is not pure silicon dioxide alone. So that way, you can't say that it is. It can silicate glass contains silicon dioxide, of course. There are other types of glasses are also there. So one of the most popular form of glass is silicate based. And that means silicon dioxide will be there inside. Yeah. Yeah. Any question from Alka? Then Bhaskar. I'm going in the alphabetic order. Bhaskar.
No, sir.
Farah.
No, sir.
Then Meenakshi.
No, sir.
Nithi is there.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Nik-
No doubt. No doubt.
Prashant, anyway, if you have any other question.
No, sir.
Then Priyanka.
No, sir.
Okay. So if there is no further questions, so I'll stop here. And I assume that all of you have joined the Piazza registered there, and these lectures will be available there, and some resources, additional resources also I may post there, so you can take advantage of that. So if you have any difficulties, you can post the questions also there. So I think we'll call it a day now. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Oh,
sir.
welcome.
Thank you, sir.